Taking only my valuables, I dash out of the house, running down the busy streets towards the train station. I run up the stairs of the station. At the platform, I wait for the train to my hometown as I try to suppress my anxiety. I look around nervously to see if anyone is following me, but I don't even know what I'm running from. I don't know why I've had to give up on the honeymoon I was looking forward to and have ended up being forced to run. But I'm trying to flee from this town as I trusted my husband telling me to run. My name is Megan. I'm an office worker who just turned 30. Despite always feeling like a newcomer, I found myself in a position to teach others before I knew it, leading a busy life. I have a fiancé, Bob, and we're getting married next year. Bob is my colleague at work and 3 years younger. He's so mature and reliable that my colleagues often tease me, saying, "We can't tell who's older." He's a man who commands trust from superiors and subordinates alike, handles household chores flawlessly, and I think he's an ideal partner for marriage. Except for one thing. One weekend, we needed to visit my in-laws' house together. As we open the door to the living room, 2 women are relaxing, sipping tea. "Welcome home, Bob." "Welcome back, Bobby." Ignoring me completely, the women greet him with sparkling smiles and Bob sighs.
Why is Catherine here again?
"Well, Catherine is like a daughter to us, right?"
"Right, Mom? Oh, if I become Bobby's wife, I'll really be your daughter."
"Oh, how wonderful." Bob sighs again as my mother-in-law and Catherine start giggling and making a fuss. I was filled with the urge to go home right then and there. Catherine is a neighbor of my in-laws and Bob's childhood friend. They've been close since they were babies, up until high school. Catherine has beautiful eyes and a slender figure, and with her expertise in acting cute, she's the type of girl that men can't leave alone. For some reason, she's fixated on Bob. And it started right after Bob told his parents about our engagement. She's been aggressively texting Bob, inviting him out for drinks, and whispering things like, "I'll feel sad if you get married," and "Didn't you propose to me when we were little?" I felt uneasy at Catherine's assertiveness and asked Bob if he was interested in his cute childhood friend. To that, he made a disgusted face.
"She juggled 5 guys at once in the soccer team in high school. In college, she seemed to only date men who had girlfriends or wives. I'm too scared to marry a woman with no sense of chastity like that."
Well, you're right. I was taken aback by Catherine's lack of fidelity, but relieved to know that Bob was not swayed by her. But my mother-in-law is on Catherine's side. She's trying to push me out by flaunting her closeness with Catherine. Apparently, she doesn't like me because I'm older than her son, taller, and work too hard for a woman. She seems to be unaware of Catherine's wildness and thinks that Catherine, who at first glance appears elegant and obedient, would be easy to handle and boast about as a daughter-in-law. Because of those two, we faced the worst possible experience at our wedding a month later. Unbelievably, Catherine, who wasn't even invited, showed up at the reception. And she wore a pure white dress, which of course only the bride is supposed to wear. Of course, it wasn't as lavish as a bridal gown, but the fact that it was white didn't change. And she was the center of attention in the venue in many ways. What was even scarier was that during the reception, she had the audacity to sit at the family table where my mother-in-law was. During our slideshow, and even during our friends' speeches, I couldn't help but be bothered by her chatting it up with my mother-in-law. When they approached our table at one point, my husband argued with them, as he tried to hold back his anger.
"Catherine, you weren't invited, and you're wearing a white dress. And sitting at the family table, what the heck are you thinking? What are you doing, Mom?"
"But it's my childhood friend's wedding. I can't not celebrate it, and white matches my skin the best."
"Oh, I agree. The white dress looks really good on your fair skin. You look the best in this venue. I requested the seat because you forgot to prepare it. Don't worry, I'm sharing the meal with her." Ugh. My husband, unable to vent his frustration, looked down in despair. Looking at my father-in-law, who was at the family table,
He had an apologetic look on his face. Although my father-in-law is a decent man, he's weak-willed and probably got bulldozed over by his wife. We've been eagerly preparing and looking forward to this day for nearly a year. It's so frustrating I feel like crying, but if I cry now, it will only please these two. I'm not going to show them my tears. When I raised my face and smiled at Catherine, I saw the corners of her eyes twitch. Coming to celebrate even though you weren't invited? Catherine, you're really thoughtful of your friends, aren't you? Huh? Catherine grimaced. And it's so nice of you to share half your meal. Please do share half of your favorite filet mignon as well. Oh, my mother-in-law's eyes wandered. Oh, it's almost time for me to change outfits, so please step back. I'm sorry I'm so busy. I mean, I am the main event after all. With that said, and showing a calm smile, the attendant who was with me said, "Can we please let other people take pictures with the newlyweds, please?" and kindly moved them out of our way. I was grateful for her excellent work. Catherine glared at me for a moment with demonic eyes, but then immediately plastered on a cutesy, idol-like smile and left. I'm sorry I'm not the weak woman who would cry and wail. Thanks to the excellent attendant and the staff, the reception turned out all right. I was exhausted, but aside from those two, I received heartfelt blessings from everyone else and was able to fully appreciate the happiness. We didn't start living together right after our marriage. Since job transfers are announced at the end of the fiscal year, we thought it would be safer to find a new home afterwards. So, for our honeymoon trip planned 2 weeks after the wedding, we each planned to leave from our own homes and meet up at the airport. Once we start living together, there'll be fewer chances for rendezvous, so I thought it'd be fun to do something that feels like we're still dating. The destination for our honeymoon is Italy. My mind was filled with the allure of Italy, especially it being my first overseas trip. I was thrilled and excited each day leading up to it. However, my excitement was about to be ruined by the two. On the day of the honeymoon, while I was nervously opening and closing the suitcase, checking that I hadn't forgotten anything, I got a call from my husband. "Hey, what's up? We're meeting up at 1 p.m., right?" "I'm sorry." "Huh?" Contrary to my easygoing self, my husband screams in a desperate voice, "We have to cancel the honeymoon. Please don't come to the meetup spot." "What?" "Listen, don't leave the apartment. No, actually, leave right now. And go back to your parents' home, please." Wait a minute, what's going on?" "I'm sorry, I'll explain later. Just leave right now." Stunned, I stare at the phone after being abruptly disconnected. I have no idea what's going on, but my good mood has suddenly gone down the drain after hearing my husband being frantic. Could he possibly be involved in some sort of crime? The mere thought sends chills down my spine. With my legs about to buckle from all the anxiety, I force myself to move and decide to return to my parents' home as per my husband's instructions. Naturally, my parents are in a panic. Their daughter, who was supposed to be going on her honeymoon, has come home with a pale face. Seeing the disgraceful behavior of my mother-in-law at our wedding, they were even more worried. Even if I wanted to explain the situation, I too was at a loss because I didn't know why I was there. Then I got a call from an unknown number. I sensed something was not right. It was the police. Fearing that I was indeed involved in a crime, I pressed the answer button with bated breath. The police officer, with a much softer voice than I expected, explained why he had called. "We got a call about a couple of women screaming and banging on your apartment door. They seemed quite agitated, so we took them into custody. The older woman claims to be your mother." "What? Wait, me?" Because I had put the call on speakerphone, my mother, who was listening next to me, let out a bewildered shout. Even the police officer on the other end, hearing my mother's voice, seemed taken aback with a surprised, "Huh?" I was dumbfounded for a moment, but I soon realized who the older woman was. It was my mother-in-law, and I assume Catherine is with her too. I don't know why they came to my house on the day of our honeymoon, but I'm sure they're the reason my husband was panicking. Our flight was now hours ago. Because of these people, our honeymoon is gone. No Venice, no pizza, no pasta, no tiramisu, no maritozzo, all of which I was looking forward to. This is awful, just awful.
I'm never forgiving them.
My mother is sitting right next to me. Those people are complete strangers, I stated firmly to the police officer.
Hold on, Megan, it's me.
I could hear my mother-in-law screaming from the other end of the phone, but the officer must have sensed something as he smoothly ended the call with,
"Thank you for your cooperation."
I suspect that my mother-in-law and the others came to my apartment with the intention of causing me harm. How crazy is it that they would claim to be my mother when they're in trouble? Several hours passed. My husband showed up at my parents' house late into the night. As I suspected, the ones who were held by the police were my mother-in-law and Catherine. Somehow, they found out that we were meeting at the airport, and they had planned to stop me from going to Italy. Then, Catherine planned to run up to my husband, waiting at the airport, and lie to him, saying,
"Your wife has run off with another man,"
planning to comfort my distraught husband, and maybe even take my place on our honeymoon and deepen their relationship. I wonder if they really thought they could easily take my place right before departure. It's not like this lie wouldn't be exposed when we returned from our honeymoon. What short-sighted thinking, I thought. But their dreadful plan didn't end there. After stopping me, they intended to take me to a man my mother-in-law had chosen. To my mother-in-law's 50-year-old unemployed brother. For that purpose, they had Catherine's cousins waiting in a car, which gave me chills. If this plan went through with my mother-in-law's brother and me, and my husband and Catherine, my mother-in-law thought we probably wouldn't be able to stay as a couple. It was a terrifying plan. How my husband found out about this terrifying plan was thanks to my father-in-law. He happened to hear my mother-in-law and the others making plans and secretly contacted my husband. My husband was planning to do a little work before heading to the airport, so when my father-in-law called, he was still at work. He immediately called me in a panic. By the time he delegated his work to a colleague and arrived at my apartment, my mother-in-law and the others had apparently already been taken away. After that, he went to the police with my father-in-law, sorted out various things, and finally managed to get here. My husband apologized profusely for the actions of my mother-in-law and the others, and for our cancelled honeymoon. He did everything he possibly could, and seeing how worn out he had become in just one day, I couldn't bring myself to blame him. But I will never forgive my mother-in-law and Catherine. I will never forgive them no matter what. From that day on, I switched from defense to offense. First, I claimed for the cost of repairs to my apartment door that they had destroyed, various fees to the management company, and the cancellation fees for the honeymoon. Apparently, they were enraged, thinking I was playing hooky and kicked the door, and even hit it with a nearby fire extinguisher. The door was a new high-end one that I had just replaced, so the repair cost was high. I also had splurged on the honeymoon, so everything in total came close to $20,000. Of course, they resisted.
"No, I'm not the one to blame. It's Bob who won't admit he loves me."
All I wanted was your happiness, Bob. Huh? I get it.
"Bob, you really are kind."
If you're not willing to pay, we're going to court.
Court?
If we go to court, we'll also pursue the fact that you tried to kidnap my wife. The costs and the amount claimed are likely to increase. At the mention of the word court, the mother-in-law began to tremble and Catherine began to sob.
"But Bob, you forgive me, right? I'm your precious girl, aren't I?"
I'll never forgive you.
Eek!
Catherine let out a small shriek at the cold glare of my husband.
"But I love you so much, it's cruel. You do love me too, don't you, Bob?"
There's no way I could love a woman who casually dates 5 guys at once or goes out with a married man. What? 5 guys? The mother-in-law looks at Catherine in shock. I also back up my husband. You say you love Bob, but you only started saying that after he and I got engaged, right? Even if you're not interested in a man, you suddenly want him when he's someone else's. You. The mother-in-law glares at Catherine. She must have hit a nerve. Catherine's eyes dart around in panic. Then she points at my mother-in-law and shouts,
You're the main culprit. She tried to use me because she didn't like her daughter-in-law.
Oh my, you're trying to pin the blame on me? Bob, this woman led me astray. I tried to stop this terrible thing.
What?
The two began to argue fiercely as if they're about to grapple with each other. The two of them, who had been so friendly, have suddenly broke up. What a fragile friendship. In the end, Catherine's parents and the father-in-law intervened, and it was decided to split the claim amount exactly in half. Catherine's parents, who had not noticed their daughter's disgraceful behavior at all, were very apologetic. We brought in a lawyer and filed a restraining order for Catherine and the mother-in-law. Of course, the mother-in-law refused in tears, but their plan was so malicious, even though it was foiled. Neither I nor my husband intended to forgive them. 3 years later, we were living peacefully with our newborn child when a man visited our home. The man, who was stylishly dressed in an expensive suit, introduced himself as Catherine's fiancé.
I went back to Catherine's parents' house to say hello, and I happened to meet one of her classmates who told me,
Wasn't she supposed to steal Bob?
Oh. My husband, hearing Catherine's name for the first time in a long time, face palms. The classmate Catherine and her fiancé met must have attended our wedding and seen Catherine's disgrace.
I thought it was a joke, but I was concerned about Catherine's pale face. I'm sorry, but I had it investigated. You and Catherine were childhood friends, but you're not dating now, are you? Of course not. We've never even dated.
When my husband emphatically said this, the fiancé looked relieved.
But she might be dating someone other than me. What? The Catherine I know is the type who dates a different guy every day of the week. What? Even though she wasn't invited to our wedding, she showed up wearing a white dress and brazenly sat at the family table. No way. I think if you're going to investigate, you should widen the scope, not just me. Oh, all right.
Catherine's fiancé responded in a faint voice, then staggered away from our house. It seemed they really did carry out an investigation afterward, and Catherine's history with men embarrassingly came to light. It turns out Catherine's fiancé was the son of a somewhat prominent CEO, and the entire family was furious at Catherine, who had falsely portrayed herself as a chaste woman. Apparently, she had been dating several men while engaged, and not only was the engagement called off, but she's also apparently being sued for damages. If she hadn't let her desire to steal someone else's man get in the way of our wedding, she might have made it to a life of luxury without anyone finding out. Well, her true nature would have been exposed eventually. But this is way too much poetic justice. My mother-in-law seems to be fretting over not being able to meet her first grandchild. She's apparently watching with bated breath as my father-in-law cheerfully brings baby supplies over to our house. There have been several instances where baby clothes were sent via my father-in-law, but I sent them back without even looking at them. Catherine was dumped by her fiancé and drowning in debt, and my mother-in-law was unable to see her beloved son and grandchild. Right now, them being neighbors, they seem to get in a catfight every time they see each other. The neighbors who have to witness these ugly disputes are certainly not enjoying it.
Hey Megan, how about we visit the Miami Seaquarium on the second day, and on the third day, let's head to Key West. I heard there's the Overseas Highway.
Sounds beautiful. I also want to eat seafood at a Cuban restaurant. I want to swim with the fishies.
This year, as our son turns 3, we're planning to take the honeymoon we never got to have. Our destination is Florida. The main goal is to show our son dolphins. Of course, we also plan on trying all the food specialties like Cuban food. We haven't given up on Italy, which we had to put off because our son was still too young. It may be far off in the future, but if it's with my husband, we can make it happen. All because I feel so content and happy every day.